Hello everybody, I hope that everything is going well and you're still practicing to improve your English language speaking skills. Today we're going to have practice with TPO. As you are familiar, this program is designed for exam preparation. I mean that for TOEFL preparation. It has all those four skills, but today we're going to have only practice with speaking skill. Let's see how do I tackle these questions here. I will give tips and guides about how to manage your time, how to manage your outlines and structures for speaking, how to develop your keywords on your notepad, and how to combine the ideas in the integrated tasks. Let's see how we are going to answer these ones.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
Actually, when I was young, I was always enjoying playing with my siblings at home who were younger than me. I was kind of responsible for them because my parents were at work, and all the responsibility at home was on my shoulders to take care of them and also play and having enjoyable time together. They were good company for me. We had kind of group games, board games together, and actually we didn't need to even go outside. Although we didn't have kind of regulations, we didn't realize it could be a good idea to go outside because of the safety and security that always my father and mother warned us about that. That is why I like to just play and spend my time with my siblings, and I didn't like to go outside to play with others. Let's go to next question. What is the next question? In the next question, which is integrated task, I'm going to have 45 seconds for reading.
Read an article in the campus newspaper. You will have 50 seconds to read the article. Begin reading now.
This type of reading is usually announcement from the university to have some changes in the university environment, or some students request to the university in order to, I don't know, change again some. So let's see what is this one. As you read, you can take the important notes. Usually there are two notes. One of them here is, because they want to remove the old books. One of them is making space for the new ones. Another one is they're going to make electronic. So they can see on the computer. So there are 2 points here. Let's listen to students. They are going to discuss this issue, and most of the time they disagree. Let's see, are they actually agreeing or disagreeing with this topic? As you listen, try to grab the ideas, those how she or he is going to give opinion about
two students discussing
accepting or rejecting those 2
points.
Did
you see this article about the library, Sue?
Yeah, I think it's about time they did something like that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I worked at the library last year.
Yeah, I remember that. You were shelving books or something, right?
Right, and I have to say that the shelves were all getting pretty crowded, pretty packed with books. The librarians complained about it a lot, actually.
So there was actually a problem?
Yeah, in fact, there were piles of books stacked in some of the librarians' offices. New shipments of books that the university had bought, but we didn't have room for them, so they didn't go out on the shelves right away. Which is kind of a shame, since someone might have been able to use them.
Yeah, this seems like a practical move then.
Yeah, and it's a great idea to give us online access. And I actually think students will find it easier to use these books now, because you won't have to go to the library or carry those books around. You could just sit in your dorm room and read.
That's true.
I kind of wish they'd do it with all the books, to be honest. It would make things a lot easier.
Well, maybe someday.
Okay, then we will have preparation time to combine these two opinions together. I mean that the announcement from the university and the student's point.
Please prepare your answer after the beep.
It's our preparation time. As you heard, she had the point. Because of her experience, She knew that there are piles of the books over the desk, they didn't have place, and the new books weren't useful and practical for students. So he thinks that this is a really practical idea to move old books. And for the second reason, for digitalizing the books, I mean that for scanning those, she agreed with that. She thinks that it is convenient for students. Okay.
Please begin speaking after the beep.
Two students are discussing the university new announcement about moving the old books from the library shelves to make space for those newly bought books. Actually, because of one of the students' experience working in the library, she knows better that this is really practical idea, because as she remembers, most of the time the books were piled over the desks of the librarians and they couldn't find any room for them. So because of that, most of those newly bought books were useless for students. That is why she thinks that this is really good idea and practical for students. In addition, she thinks that this is really good idea to digitalize some books, scanning those ones and making students have access over the computer. In this case, it is convenient for most of the students and they don't need to go to library or carry some books, and they can conveniently read those ones from the dormitory. And plus, she thinks that it is better to have all those kind of books in the library scanned and be accessible through the online network. Okay, I run 2 seconds more. It is not good because I should have finished 2 seconds earlier. It is the tip for exam, but I added some detail. The amount of the words or details that you are delivering depends on your speaking speed. It means that if your speed is high, you can even mention all the details that you grabbed from those. However, remember to modify the language. Sometimes, if it is possible, use the synonyms. But if your speaking rate is low, just stick to the main points and try to just mention the main points of rejection or accepting the ideas. Okay, everything is going well. Let's go to the third question. Again, we're going to have integrated task, as you know, but this time the topic is academic topic. It is a
Read an article in the campus newspaper. You will have 50 seconds to read the article. Begin reading now.
Changeability by the clothes, new finding. In cloth definition, they have particular meaning or association to reflect this association. Okay, let's go to listening.
Now, listen to part of a lecture in a psychology class.
Okay, so scientists did an experiment that demonstrated how this works. The study used long white lab coats, just like medical doctors wear here in the U.S. Now, what traits do we associate with doctors? For one thing, we know they're observant. They need to pay attention to detail. So researchers wanted to see if people who weren't medical doctors would show this behavior while wearing lab coats. Here's what they did. They got 2 groups of volunteers, and in one of the groups, each of the volunteers was given a lab coat to wear. And in the other group, each volunteer was just shown a lab coat. It was put on the table in front of them, and they were told to look at it. And in each case, of course, the volunteers were told that these were doctors' lab coats. So, to test their abilities, the volunteers had to look at 2 pictures that were almost the same, but not quite. Then the participants had to see how many differences they could notice between the 2 pictures. And here's the interesting thing. The people who were wearing doctors' lab coats noticed more differences than the people who just looked at the lab coats. So the researchers concluded that by actually wearing the lab coats, people started to act like doctors, to be more observant and better at noticing small details.
Please begin speaking after the beep. After the beep.
The professor is demonstrating the theory of in-cloth cognition, in which it is claimed that when a person wears a special kind of clothes associated with a special kind of profession, finds a new kind of ability. Actually, he exemplifies by giving the results of one study in which they asked two groups of participants to attend in the lab situation. One group of the students, that is called experimental group, have access to the lab coats and they could wear those ones, but the other ones, placebo groups, couldn't wear those lab coats, but they could only look at those lab coats. Both of the groups wanted to look at the pictures with subtle differences, and then they asked them to report about the possible differences between those two similar pictures. Surprisingly, those participants in the experimental group could report much more deep information and differences between the pictures. So the results of this study supports the theory of in-class cognition. So, as you heard, I summarized the information I heard from the professor and I combined the idea to those ones mentioned there. You don't need to give more detailed information about the reading text you had. Only you need to mention what is the theory and what does that theory mean. As I told, in cloth cognition, in which it is claimed the new kind of clothes gives kind of ability to the person. That is only enough about that. And then you need to report much more about the listening section. I mean that the professor's lecture, how that example, how the points over there are related. Are they supporting the theory or are they rejecting that? That's so. Okay, let's go to the next question. Question 4, which is again integrated task, but this time we don't have any reading text and we have only the listening text. Okay. There are usually 2 points mentioned by the professor. Try to grab those 2 points.
Listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
So, we usually think of plants trying to get as much sunlight as possible. And in most cases it's true, plants grow toward light. But what's interesting is, in some cases, plants do the opposite. Sometimes plants actually grow away from or avoid light. Let's talk about a couple reasons why. Now, some plants need to find other objects like trees to cling to grow on for support. These plants are attracted to the dark shadows that tall objects cast on the ground. By growing along the ground in a dark shadow, these plants eventually reach the tall object and then grow upward, along it, being supported by it. For example, some vines do this. Vines grow in shadows until they reach a tree or a building. Then the vine will climb or grow up that object. Other plants avoid light in order to conserve moisture. Usually a plant's leaves face upward, so their whole surface is exposed to the sun's rays. However, since intense sunlight makes plants lose water, some plants are in danger of drying out from too much exposure. So during the day when the light gets really intense, these plants change the position of their leaves to decrease their exposure to the sun and therefore retain moisture. For example, a species of bean plant does this. When the bean plant senses that the sunlight's too strong in the middle of the day, it turns its leaves sideways, so the sun only hits the sides of the leaves, the thin edge. This way the bean plant avoids drying out.
So as you heard, the professor was talking about 2 ways in which some plants avoid the light. So one of them was about, let's go to actually preparation time. Yes, let's just wait. It gives us some preparation time.
Please prepare your answer after the beep.
Okay, as you hear, there were two reasons. One of them was growing on the support, and another one was conserving the moisture on the leaves. The examples are clear. Wine and bean plants. Always look at the questions because you can grab these things that perhaps you missed while listening, some unfamiliar names of the species.
Please begin speaking after the beep.
The professor is giving two reasons why some plants avoid light. These two reasons include growing on support and conserving moisture. The first reason, growing on support, is because some plants can't grow on themselves. That is why they try to find something like tall objects so they can rely on that and they can grow on that. She gives the example of vine plants. When it is on the ground, it tries to find tall objects such as the tree, and then it climbs over that, and then it grows in the shadow of that tall object, which is the tree. And the other reason is for conserving moisture. Some plants have big kind of leaves, and their leaves, when they are exposed to the intense sunlight, loses lots of moisture on the surface. That is kind of threat to the plant. That is why some plants, such as the bean plants, when they are exposed to the intense sunlight, turn over their upward leaves to the downward so they can keep and preserve lots of moisture in the surface. Okay, not bad. Okay guys, now it is tip time. As you know, question 4, it depends much more on your ability to listening, comprehension too, and then taking the notes. Your notes are very important and critical because you should grab those 2 points, 2 reasons, 2 examples that you hear in the professor lecture. Usually kind of short pause signifies that the professor is doing kind of transition from the first to the second reason. And then you need to provide some major points about the professor speaking and supported by the examples given by the professor. Okay, I hope that the practice was useful and practical. So anytime that you listen to these kind of practices, just pause there and speak yourself. It can improve your speaking. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.